Today is Monday, July 28th, 2025. This is First Alert Plus. I'm meteorologist Nicholas Snyder. Today is a First Alert weather day. Let's get right into what we're talking about. Heat, and more heat. That's kind of the main story of our weather really over the last couple of weeks here. It has been downright oppressively hot, and we're looking at excessive heat at least continuing into the middle of the week. But finally, a cold front will be making its way on through. And we'll look at that long-term forecast here for you as well, get you a better idea of what is headed our way down the line here. So let's talk about what's going on here. We've got this ridge of high pressure, that heat dome that we've been talking about here. You can see that clockwise swirl. Now you'll notice a few minor disturbances right on the edge of this. I'll move this map out of the way for you and move that high pressure a little bit down here. We do have a few minor disturbances that have brought about a few isolated thunderstorms that we've been seeing over the region. We saw a few of those storms pop up today. Further to the west, out in the Midwest, out towards St. Louis into Iowa, we've seen storms pop up as well. I want to focus on the heat, though. That's the main issue. Our jet stream is really screaming off to the north. Big old trough right here, or a dip in the jet stream. And the heat dome lasts over much of the eastern United States here. And this is expected to continue again through at least the next couple of days with this high pressure, and that's going to cause that oppressively hot weather to move on in. Here's a look at what we could be expecting tomorrow. These are actual air temperatures. 93 is expected to be our high for your day Tuesday, and with humid conditions as well. So it's going to feel even hotter out there thanks to, again, that ridge of high pressure. Mid-90s expected as well for your day Wednesday. It's just not going to feel all that great. Here's what we're expecting as far as dew points. Dew points, remember, are a measure of how humid it is, and when you get into the 70s, that's downright tropical air. We're not going to get out of the 70s as far as those dew points are concerned, so that humidity will make it feel even hotter. We're talking about heat indices again well into the triple digits. This could be what we're feeling tomorrow afternoon. Look at that 107 heat index in Huntington, heat index of 103 in Charleston, 103 heat index in Portsmouth, 105 heat index Gallipolis, 102 heat index at Spencer, 105 heat index in Pikeville. It's not done on Tuesday. We're also doing this on Wednesday. Again, middle and upper triple-digit heat indices. We have warnings and advisories that do continue for the time being because of this activity that will be moving its way on here. Now, I mentioned a few isolated storm chances. There is that possibility. We're kind of on the edge of this heat dome. And so this evening, later on, we could see a few isolated storms trying to pop up here further to the west. Eastern Kentucky along the US 23 corridor, maybe the US 50 corridor in Ohio here. These will slide further and further to the south, though, as we go through the night. So river cities, Huntington, Ashland, and Ironton, even as far east as Charleston, right along the Ohio River here, too, toward Ripley, Ravenswood, even up toward New Haven and Pomeroy. We could see these storms reach that location. These storms aren't going to be severe or strong, but what they're going to do is provide us with some downpours, lightning, and thunder. If it was coming during the daytime, we'd all love this because this would really help with the heat situation. However, it's coming overnight, so for a lot of us, we're not going to see any relief from the heat. Now, tomorrow, a lot of this activity will move to the south and east, and during the morning time frame, we're talking about the coal fields, seeing some activity. It's just minor disturbances, again, kind of riding along this, so it's not going to be anything major, at least for the time being. By the evening time, we'll watch southern Ohio for, again, an isolated chance of an isolated storm here or there. So daily storm chances will be there. I think our lowest storm chances are going to be during the day on Wednesday, once we have this ridge kind of in full force. Unfortunately, though, that's when it's going to be hottest. Let's talk about watches, warnings, and advisories. Extreme heat warning is in place until 8 p.m. on Wednesday. They extended this all the way through Wednesday. Much of the West Virginia lowlands here, much of southern Ohio, far northeastern corner of Kentucky. This would be heat indices reaching again above 105 degrees. Heat advisory pretty much for the rest of us. The only two locations not under a heat advisory, Fayette and Nicholas counties, West Virginia, and that's due to the fact that they're higher up in elevation. They're not going to see quite as hot temperatures, but it's still going to feel hot over there. The rest of us under heat advisories also until 8 p.m. on Wednesday. So some of the hazards include heat exhaustion, heat stroke. You know the name of the game right there. But we can also see some interesting things in terms of let's say walking the dog and things of that nature. That certainly could be a problem for the pets. You want to keep a close eye on those pets. So meteorologist Hannah Hayes talks about how walking the dog during the middle of the day may not be your best idea.
Over the next week, we do have several first alert weather days for the excessive heat. Temperatures expected to reach into the mid-90s as we go through most days through Wednesday. So as you're setting reminders to take your dog outside, maybe you can't really adjust the time of day when you take your dog outside. So if you have to go out, especially in the peak of the day, the late afternoon, the early evening, temperatures are going to be hot. And it's not only going to be hot on you, but also your dog as well. The pavement temperatures increase very, very significantly whenever the temperature is about 95 degrees outside. So as you're taking that dog for a walk, if you can, try and keep them on the grass where it's a little bit cooler, because the concrete can get up to about 125 degrees when the outdoor temperature is around 95. So it is going to be extremely hard on their paws. They can burn in minutes as you're taking that dog on a walk. So even if you're just out for a couple of minutes, your dog's paws can get really hot and they can get burned pretty easily. So if you can, of course, give them some protective feet covering. That's always a good idea. But if you have to walk them on the grass or the concrete, just make sure that you're being careful and watch for signs with your dog in pain, very uncomfortable from these higher temperatures, and how the concrete temperature increases as well. So if you take your hand and put it on the concrete for about 5 seconds and your hand is hot, their paws are also going to be hot. So stay cool this week and protect yourself and your dogs from this heat.
Yeah, just a temperature of 95 degrees can do a whole lot in terms of not making it feel all that great for the dogs out there. So maybe a good idea to take those pets for a walk during the early morning hours or during the evening hours once that sun is set to go down. All right, let's talk about some other features headed our way. I mentioned some relief is on the way. I promised this earlier. We got to move back to the west to look for this. This area of low pressure right in here, you see that little dip here in the jet stream, and we're showing you that activity kind of going counterclockwise where it dips down, goes back up. That's what's headed our way. It's going to take its time getting here. It's a slow overall pattern, but we're already starting to see a few storms. You'll see here up toward Montana, up toward Idaho, North Dakota, starting to pop on up. And these storms are eventually going to move their way closer and closer to the region. Now, the storms are not going to be the thing that's really making headlines with this thing, which is good news. We don't want to see any severe weather, and I don't think we'll see too much in the way of severe weather. Could be an isolated wind gust or two. But the big thing is what's headed our way as we head down the line here, where we look a whole lot better in terms of relief that could be headed our way. So lots of things going on, including the Gallia County Junior Fair that could be headed our way. Of course, the beginning of the week will not be all that great, and we've got you covered on what you can expect for that headed into tomorrow. Going to be another hot one. Tomorrow's yet another first alert weather day. Lower and middle 90s across all of southern Ohio. Some evening storms a possibility here, but for the day we're mostly dry. Let's spotlight the Gallia County Fair. Gallipolis, not going to be too bad, at least as far as the sky conditions are concerned, but it's not the most comfortable out there thanks to that heat and humidity. And again, you can add about 10 degrees to that actual air temperature. That's where you get that feels like temperature. Again, we could watch for an isolated storm moving in for the evening, but for the most part, we are dry here in the afternoon. Eastern Kentucky, we're looking at temps in the mid-90s here as well. West-southwest winds 0 to 5 miles an hour. Down toward Pikeville, Prestonsburg, morning time frame, we could see some isolated storms. Further to the north, we should be dry in the morning, but evening storms out toward Greenup, Ashland, over toward the Vanceburg area here as well. Southern West Virginia, we're in the mid-90s here. Coalfields, morning storms. Madison, Logan, Williamson, basically Corridor G points south and east. Further to the north and west, Wayne and Hamlin, we should be dry until the evening time frame. Calm winds. And eastern and central West Virginia, 92 in Charleston, 93 in Huntington. Those storms in the morning going to be focused down towards Summersville, Fayetteville, up towards Sutton, Corridor L and Corridor G here. Further to the north and west during the evening time frame out toward the Huntington area, the Barbersville area, Point Pleasant area, places like that. Mention the Gallia County Fair. Chief Meteorologist Tony Cavalier has a spotlight on this week's Gallia County Fair.
So this week's County Fair Spotlight takes us up to across from the Holzer Medical Center on Jackson Pike in Gallia County, Ohio, where the Gallia County Junior Fair is underway, crowning the Queen on Monday evening. By the way, over the years, there's been some terrific downpours on Jackson Pike that have flooded the fairgrounds. Fingers crossed this week, although we know it's going to be plenty hot. Here's a look at my last trip to the fair just a few years ago. In 4-H and FFA, their night It's always one of the high points of the American County Fair. The 4-H Swine Show, a must-see event for seasoned fairgoers. This year at the Gallia Fair, a drove of hogs with their tenders, more than 300 in total, entered the show ring in quest of the coveted blue ribbon. So they came from Mercerville and Rio Grande, from Patriot and Vinton, and every hog home in between. Prize porkers, some tipping the scales north of 300 pounds, sweet-tooth fed and pleasingly plump.
My pig, Fred, will not eat any cookies. He'll only eat marshmallows.
What's your story, Fred? Hey, Fred, what kind of marshmallows you like? For 6 hours, a romper room of pigs scurried across the show arena, a sort of hog heaven, giving new meaning to the phrase, bringing home the bacon. For these youth in 4-H and FFA, their night of excitement is off the Midway, where hundreds of eyeballs judge their every move. Huge crowd out there. What's it feel like when every eye is on you?
It's a little nerve-wracking, but it's really exciting at the same time.
Blue Ribbon winner and WSAZ Best of the Class alum Bo Johnson is studying farming science at Ohio State. You might say Bo knows, the ropes that is, and has some keen advice for younger kids. Bo, class winner, what did it take to win the Blue Ribbon?
A lot of hard work at home, dedication. Work hard in the classroom, but don't get obsessed in it because there's a lot more to life than just school.
Back in the barn area we visited in order to learn about what the hog's like.
Whatever you do. Is he a good hog?
Yeah.
Does he like you?
Yeah.
You like him?
Yeah.
Early. What's it feel like out there with all those eyes on you?
It's intimidating, but it's fun.
Tell me about the first time showing.
I love it because my brother and sister always help me with showing my animals, and they give me a lot of pointers.
4-H means to me hard work, and you're being a youth leader, and you're just a really hard worker.
Just another all-American night at the Gallia County Junior Fair.
Fifth place from Class 10, Wesley Bottomer. We're going to welcome Cole Loveday back to the show arena.
And again, that Gallia County Fair going on all this week. Be sure to check it out, although earlier on in the week and maybe even later on in the week, not too great. But as we head into the weekend, things may get a whole lot better for us, and we're looking forward to that. Let's talk about what we can be expecting. I mentioned the break that's headed our way, and I'm mentioning the Gallia County Fair because there is going to be a great time to get to the Gallia County Fair. If you like the hot weather, it's going to be earlier on this week. But if you don't like that hot weather, you're going to want to wait for Friday and into the weekend, as an area of low pressure will move on through. Behind that low pressure, a cold front brings in comfortable conditions thanks to an area of high pressure moving on in as well, and that's going to feel a very, very whole lot better. So let's talk about the technical things going on here in our atmosphere. First and foremost, we got this right entrance region right in here, this little disturbance that I'll highlight for you right here, that little dip you'll see there in the white lines. The winds are surging out of this. Notice how we go from, let's say, reds and yellows to purples right up here toward portions of southern Canada and into the northeast. And that is what is going to be kind of really the thing that really impacts us the most around here as we're looking forward to some very, very impactful changes in the weather. This is going to bring in cooler air. It's also going to bring in rain chances with diverging air. Remember, the wind is going slow and speeding up here as we're moving to the east. I'll highlight this for you, speeding up right in here. So we're going to have some rising motion in our atmosphere. That'll bring about a few showers. Now, as we move forward, I'll take all this off for you, go into the weekend here. I want to pause right here. Notice what's to our east. That disturbance is now off to our east right here. We're seeing air going very, very fast up here in the Hudson Bay down toward Toronto and then hitting a wall, slowing down once it hits this little disturbance right in here. That means high pressure, sinking motion is going to be likely to develop on in for the day Saturday and as we head into the day on Sunday. That is going to be a welcome sight. And the American model is pretty much agreeing with this. Again, there's our little disturbance right here. The one difference between the models is what time the system gets here. But it's showing a kind of similar pattern here in terms of what we could be expecting to see out of this. Again, we're watching that wind really speed up coming into that system, allowing for rising air into the atmosphere, generating a few of those showers. And as we head into the weekend, the opposite. We get that sinking air developing on in, and that'll make things feel a whole lot better thanks to that high pressure working in. And lots of sunshine and drier air. That's an important thing, too. Drier air. Northerly winds going to bring in less humidity and more comfortable, drier air. So what does this mean at the ground? Well, of course, it means precipitation will be here on Thursday. I'm liking what the European model's putting out here. This is a cold front coming through during the evening time frame on Thursday. This could mean, again, 1 or 2 storms could be on the gustier side for Thursday, but it's a widespread rain. It's a widespread soaking for a lot of us. And I know we've had a lot of rain this summer, but we'll definitely take a widespread soaking rain over the region once again. We just don't want any severe weather. If this times out like the Euro, could be a possibility a few storms could be gusty. We're not talking any tornadoes or anything like that. Now, lingering energy kind of rides on through during the backside of this system on Friday. This is the actual front itself, where you see the winds shift from the north to more of a north-northwest kind of deal right in here. And I'll, again, point to it. This is the northwest version. This is the northeast version. So the actual front comes through on Friday. So we'll still see some rain on Friday. And again, the American model's kind of agreeing with this. It just brings it a little bit further earlier on. But once that high pressure works on in, we're dry and we're sunny for the day Saturday. Let's talk about the American model solution. Again, it's a little quicker. Notice how the rain is much further to the south here. I'm liking what the Euro has over the American model. I will say that. The European model has been the hot hand pretty much all year. So we're going to go with what the European model is saying right now. This could change, but just keep that in mind. Friday, there's the actual front coming through right along that wind shift. The rain to the south of that front. And then by Saturday, we're dry, we're clear, we're seeing sunshine, and more importantly, we're seeing better temperatures. Look at those highs on Saturday, upper 70s and lower 80s. This is the European model. I think that's a little conservative as far as how warm it's going to get. Mid-80s are probably a good bet for Saturday, and upper 70s and lower 80s probably going to be a good bet on Sunday as well. Same thing, the American model showing the same thing. I like that temperature on the American model, that 82 right there, better for Saturday. Look at Sunday. I don't think we're going to be quite that comfortable, but again, upper 70s and lower 80s, definitely going to be a thing. And another thing we're talking about, I know everyone's going to like this, no more humidity. Comfortable conditions working on in for next week. That muggy meter is dropping from the oppressive levels that we've seen all summer for the beginning of that week down into the more comfortable territory as we head into the weekend. So weekend plans are going to be the thing that you're going to want to do. Weekend plans are going to be phenomenal. Get out and about and enjoy your weekend. Let's talk about that long-term pattern. Globally, again, we're looking at all the cold air being bottled up. Again, this is currently right now up in the North Pole, up here in Alaska. As long as that's going to be the case, we're still going to be hot. But notice how this pattern kind of shifts a little bit. We see a breakdown of that polar vortex. We see some of this cooler air begin to work on into portions of Russia as it works further to the south down here. This will break up that polar vortex, allow some warmer air to surge into the western United States, and for us, it brings that break that I mentioned earlier for the weekend. Meanwhile, Alaska getting in on some cooler air too. We like it when Alaska gets that cooler air because that allows us to see that cooler air. Now, we don't want to see that during, of course, the wintertime because that would mean very, very different things. But we see, again, the North Pacific seeing cooler air, Siberia seeing cooler air, and some warmer air kind of intruding in the poles, allowing for a slight breakdown of the polar vortex. So allowing some of that cooler air to work further to the south. Now, unfortunately, what it looks like in the long term is more heat is expected to move back in as that polar vortex comes reinforced up here in the North Pole, as you'll see here. And we'll see the warmer air kind of surge back into the U.S. It's still August after all. We're still going to be on the warmer side of things, but at least in the short, long-term forecast, meaning the next 6 to 10 days, it's not looking nearly as hot as where we've been. There's that break I mentioned for the weekend. Going to feel a whole lot nicer before, again, we shift that pattern back to a more heat-oriented pattern going into the second week of August. But first week of August looks phenomenal. Again, cooler than normal temperatures. This doesn't mean you're going to break out the sweaters, but it means 70s, 80s, likely still shorts weather, but very comfortable conditions and drier conditions. Rain chances remain kind of normal for this time of year, as we won't see quite as many thanks to the drier conditions, but we'll still see a few showers as we go through here or there. All right, let's talk about that super 7-day forecast, the all-important forecast again. First alert weather days, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. The excessive heat's still going to be there. Temperatures are expected to be continually here into the mid-90s. By Thursday, that cold front begins to move on through. So we'll highlight Thursday. I showed you this earlier. Thursday evening, I think our best bet at seeing some of these rain and some of that storminess kind of work on back through. Higher chances of storms, a widespread soaking rain. Maybe a storm or two could become strong if it taps into some of the energy that's in the atmosphere. We'll have to see. We may need a first alert weather day on Thursday for the storms. I'm not really expecting this to be a widespread, strong to severe storm event, though, so there's some good news. Lingering rain on Friday, but look at that temperature, 82 degrees. Can't complain too much about that. And on Saturday, there goes the humidity. It is gone. Comfortable all day. That yellow line showing the muggy meter, again, picture-perfect conditions over the entire area for the entire weekend. Weekend plans are going to be a thing for sure this weekend. Get out and about and enjoy it. 80 degrees, by the way, on Sunday. That's just going to feel absolutely phenomenal. And get out and about and enjoy it. Hey, this is First Alert Weather Plus. We air every Monday, 6:45 p.m., give you the latest on what you need to know in terms of the weather. By the way, we have our own YouTube channel now. Check us out, First Alert Plus, First Alert Weather Plus, I should say, WSAZ First Alert Weather Plus. We're streaming there, and we post all our episodes there to get you the latest. We give you the first alert on what you need to know that could impact your family, and we give you the latest weather information anytime you need to know it. We're streaming on all the digital platforms, YouTube, WSAZ.com, the WSAZ app. Be sure to follow us all on Facebook. Meteorologist Nicholas Snyder is me, Tony Cavalier is Tony, and meteorologist Hannah Hayes is Hannah. In the meantime, make it a great Monday.